I'm a believer that the right, the right place and the right amount of alcohol can really lead to some relaxed and beautiful conversations.
The Fred Minnick Show is brought to you by 291 Colorado Whiskey, by Michter's American Whiskeys, and by Heaven Hill Brands.
And joining the Fred Minnick Show, someone I've been a fan of for a long time, Clay Walker. I can't tell you what an honor it is to have you on my show and drink some whiskey with you. Thanks for coming on, man. How you doing?
Well, Fred, first of all, I'm flattered to come on here. I've watched some of your other shows, and they were excellent. I hope we can live up to your expectations. But Peyton Manning, a lot of those big ones, man. You're great, and thank you for taking the time.
I appreciate that. So I have to tell you, I've been listening to you forever. I feel like when I was you're like in like every one of my like playlists for country. Before we had playlists, you had like the mixtape or like the special CD. When I was in the FFA, kind of showing pigs, and we'd listen to you in the ag truck, and so it's for me, it's like talking to you is like a connection to my youth and like coming up as a man, and I got to tell you, hit after hit, I've just been a big fan of yours since the very beginning of your career. And it's really fun for me to sit down with you today.
Well, Fred, that never gets old. And I thank you for all those accolades and sharing some of those memories. I'd love to hear more about the memories, obviously, but showing in the FFA, I mean, as I say to this to some of my friends, I go, you're my kind of people.
Well, and I sent you a lot of whiskey, and one bottle I sent you, Seelbach, is owned by a really good friend of mine named Blake River. He is a big fan of yours too, and he told me that the first CD he ever bought was a Clay Walker CD, and I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool.
I like him already.
The funny thing is, like in music, there's all these ways to play music. And I think the CD may have been the absolute worst thing to put music on. I've got all these old CDs. I find like I put them in a CD player. They don't work or they skip. They were so fragile. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I'm glad we have moved away from CDs and getting a little bit back to vinyl. What were your thoughts about, where we are with like how music is played?
I mean, the vinyl obviously makes it sound more alive. It just more really like you're in the room with it, like where it's been recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Some digital recordings can sound that way as well, but it's nothing better than vinyl. I grew up playing vinyl and loved it. We had a record player. It was great. Cassette tapes, not so much. There are problems there. But I'm with you on the CDs. CDs so fragile, and I never understood which part of the CD the music was actually recorded onto. Is it from the edge inward, or is it the middle?
Yeah.
And so, which piece do you not scratch? And
now, like we, to find a CD player, like it's like impossible. Like you have to find a car from like 2001 or something. And I had a project where I needed to play an old CD, and I bought one of these CD players that you could attach to your computer, and I couldn't read it. And it's just like I think in 20, 30 years when we start getting nostalgic about CDs, we're all going to be like, boy, these things sucked. These were not fun at all. But so in addition to the Seelbach I sent you, I sent some Blue Run. Some Blue Run. This would have been in one of the little sample bottles I'd sent. So a Blue
Unfortunately,
Run.
I don't think I have the Blue Run.
You don't have that one?
Were we missing one?
It's possible that Charlie didn't grab it.
Oh, I don't have the Blue Run.
Do you have Michters?
I do have the Michters right here.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure enough.
Do you have Smoke Wagon?
I don't have Smoke Wagon. And I would have liked that one because Smoke Wagon, that's one of my favorite lines in Tombstone, where he says, "Skin that smoke wagon, see what happens."
And then an Angel's Envy. Did you get that one?
I don't have Angel's Envy, but it's possible I have that in my. Here's what I have. Do you know this one?
Okay, so you got 291. Yeah, so that's a bourbon, or is that a rye? That's a rye.
This one's the rye, but I think I have the Angel's Envy. I think I bought that. I think it's actually in my.
So you would, in addition to the full bottles, you would have gotten like little sample bottles that would look about like this, or this. So some kind of small.
Recognize this guy?
Oh yeah, a little liqueur there. By the way, that's really good in cocktails. But that would not have came. That didn't come from us.
That did not come from you.
No.
Frangelico. Yeah, I think I've had it in coffee once.
Well, so you didn't get. So we don't have the full kit. I might have went to the other house, but we do have enough to get the job done. So I know that. So this would be we sent so somewhere along the way you would have gotten like an actual kit, for me with like smaller bottles. But here we go. We got the full bottles of these guys, and that will be good. We can run with that. So let's go ahead and start with the Michters, 10-year-old. Okay. And I will tell you, if you got someone who's already can open it for you, this thing can be a beast to open.
Oh yeah, he's already got it open.
He's already got it open.
Fraser.
So if he must have already had the wax taken off.
So we just drink it right out of the bottle, or
well, you can get a little glass. I mean, you can drink it straight from the bottle if you want. But
hey, look at this. You'll like this.
I love that.
I got my very own Fred Minnick show glass.
It's pretty.
So is this going to be neat, or we're going to put a cube?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it neat.
Okay.
So you were saying before we started recording that you have a lot of experience with wine.
A lot, yeah.
Okay.
And I used to drink bourbon all the time. That was my go-to. And my wife said that I'm much kinder on wine.
That's funny. So
I love whiskey, especially this time of year in the fall, the winter.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's nothing better to warm your bones, and it's really it smells great too. But the only real experience that I've ever had with whiskey has been the bigger names, the Jack Daniels, Crown Royal. I love the Reserve. I love sipping the Reserve neat, And then I've had some friends that have bought me some different bottles of bourbon that I've loved. And I'm confused about something, though. I've heard people say that it's only bourbon if it comes from Kentucky. Is that true or no?
So that's one of the great marketing schemes of bourbon distillers in Kentucky. In 1964, Congress declared bourbon to be a unique product of the United States. And that basically blocked other countries from making bourbon. Now, they could make the exact same thing. They just couldn't call it bourbon. And so anybody who has a free trade agreement with the United States must actually agree to our terms and standards of what is bourbon. And that was, Kentucky was never called out as being the only place it could be made. In fact, at that time, bourbon was being made in Illinois and Missouri. Today, you can find it made in Wyoming, California, New York, Texas. It's made everywhere. In fact, in Texas, your stomping grounds, there's a lot of really good distillers there. You got Garrison Brothers in High Texas. You got Balcones in Waco. You got Iron Root in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so you have a lot of a lot of really good, distillers there. And it's so different in Texas because the heat there is relentless. It does not let up, and the humidity is so different than in Kentucky. So you get a lot of different styles coming out of there.
So when you drink whiskey this way neat,
Mm-hmm.
I was in Scotland several years ago, and I was playing at a golf tournament there over in Fife or St Andrews,
Mm-hmm.
and it was cold. It was in October, and we went into one of the pubs, and my friend was showing me that you kind of breathe it in or put air across it as you're taking it to really magnify the taste. Do you ever do that, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, it is when breathing with whiskey is definitely a technique. Kind of begins with the smelling part, and when you smell, you want to bring it back and forth, both nostrils. One nostril can work better than the other, and if you've ever injured your nose, you can see an impact from that. And then while you're smelling, you open your mouth and you kind of let it out a little bit, and you also relax your olfactories. But when you're smelling, you can actually feel it or taste it a little bit. And this Michter's is a really vibrant one, to begin the tasting with, because you smell that kind of go back and forth. We're just coming off of Thanksgiving, and it's reminding me of pumpkin pie and nutmeg and some banana pudding. So it's got all of
Man, that tastes great. I
yeah,
got the nutmeg
you just put
instantly.
it on the palate, kind of let it walk itself back, and then see how it feels, and then what are the flavors. And that's kind of that nutmeg note is always real prominent in this one.
Yeah, I like this a lot. The smell is really cool. Yes,
And you
sir.
could have fun sipping on this one. I don't think you would. I think you'd be real nice, after a couple of these too, kind of like wine.
Man, that is so good.
So, but before you get on stage, do you sip a little wine or anything before you get on?
Yeah, here's the truth. I've never had a drink of alcohol before I've gotten on stage.
Wow.
Um, well, for two reasons. One is or during stage, I've never revealed that to anyone. I drink water out of my cup,
Hmm.
but I might consider drinking bourbon while I'm on stage, but I've just always, felt like, to give the audience, my very best vocal performance,
Hmm.
that, I needed to be, completely sober, and so I've always lived by that. But after I get off stage, the first thing I do is have a glass of wine, or a cocktail, and just start that slow down process, because it's very difficult to go to sleep after coming off stage, because there are so many endorphins kicking. And
Yeah.
if you go on at 9:30, get off stage at 11, it's probably realistically 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. If you didn't have anything to kind of knock that high down a little bit, it's you can be up late. That's why people call it musicians' hours. Well, there's a reason why it happens, and it's not just because we like staying up late. It's because you got so many things going on and kicking
Yeah.
it, and it's nice to. It creates good conversation. I think most people would agree, that the conversations that you have around a cocktail or two can really be much different. There just seems to be a chemistry that starts to happen, not only in yourself but among your friends as you're talking. And of course, you can take that too far, but I'm a believer that the right place and the right amount of alcohol can really lead to some relaxed and beautiful conversations.
Yeah, and imagine some good songwriting too.
Yeah, the ideas for songs maybe, not the actual formulation. I think on that side of it, you probably want a little something different, but the songwriting is the ideas that come from those conversations. For me, it always starts with that. It always starts with a conversation. And,
Yeah.
when I look at songs that I really love, like The Chair, or just a bunch of us, a lot of them are conversational. So, that the elements of those great songs came from some really cool conversations.
And of course, you've had 11 number one hits, 4 platinums, and just you've had this incredible career of success. And now we're in a different world of in terms of what is consumed as country music, and you're still right there in the thick of it, as is whiskey. Whiskey is in a lot of country music songs, and I was wondering how many of your lyrics have whiskey in them. How many songs do you have with the word whiskey in it?
Well, more on my new album probably than ever before, because you're right, it is a common element in a lot of the songwriting these days. And I think that songwriters, country music figured out that our format is widely people's lifestyle, so and I would say that most people who listen to country music probably consume alcohol. Not all, but most probably do. And whiskey is there's all kind of good rhyme words with it, like frisky, and so it makes them miss me. You got all kind of rhyme words that can you can butt up against the word, and I think everybody knows that you loosen up with a little bit of whiskey in you, and it's just good. I think one of the songs that kind of, if you go way back in the day, you had George Jones, Merle Haggard, and Tennessee Whiskey, and you had a bunch of songs in the 70s, and in the early 80s that really were about drinking, and then our format kind of moved out of that and into the romantic period, with and I was part of a lot of that too. John Michael, myself, even Straight, we're a lot into the romance side of things. But one of my favorite whiskey songs was I don't take my whiskey to extremes. That line is like so just hits me like this. And then I think for the modern era, I think it was that Lady A song. It's a quarter after one or whatever it is. I need you now. That really kind of really helped push in an era of songs about drinking whiskey in particular. And I thought that was great. It's and it'll fade out. They'll go back into something else. But it is nice. Whiskey can be a really good thing, and I'm not saying that loosely. Even for your throat, people that may have a lot of phlegm or on their throat, singers, a good shot of whiskey and lemon and honey can do a lot for your throat. And I've had to do that before, not just before I sang, but coming off stage, getting ready for bed or whatever. But and it's got its medicinal properties, but I think more than anything, it's got its what am I looking for? It's conversational properties that just put you in a place that sharing, and responsibly. I think it's always good to use that disclaimer that I think more good than bad.
And I was, in listening to your latest album, which you mentioned, Texas to Tennessee, I was struck about how I could not tell the difference, very much of the Clay Walker today versus 1998. You know, when I think most of us, when we were really Clay Walker. I mean, you sound almost exactly the same, and I can't tell you how many musicians they sound different. Your voice still sounds clean. It doesn't have any throaty sounds to it. And I'm just like fascinated with how you have kept your voice in such great shape. And is that the secret? Is it the whiskey and honey and lemon?
Well, I got to say, that's a huge compliment. One of the greatest ones I've ever gotten. But I also think that, to be honest, that's very intentional, and not that everybody can, even if they're intentional with it, can prevent, the degradation of their voice. But
Yeah.
I started taking voice lessons about, I don't know, almost 4 years ago. And it was really to learn how to strengthen, and to protect the integrity. And, I sing, more correctly today than I ever have because of the lessons.
Wow.
And so that's, you just got to care, I guess. And I do, I've always felt like that, it's kind of like the old Cal Ripken said, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. You want to do it right. That's why when I was, I've never done a show like this where I was going to sit down and drink whiskey with somebody, and I watched some of yours. I was like, hey, this is worth doing. This guy knows what he's doing, and he's a great host and fun, So, but I do appreciate that compliment, and it's.
I hate to fanboy out like that. I try not to fanboy out, but sometimes I can't help it. But it's true. I mean, Clay, you sound exactly like you did in the '90s, and I know you've got this. You're co-headlining an event coming up here pretty soon with Tracy Lawrence, and I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see you live and in person. I saw you in Oklahoma. I can't remember now. It's one of those where, as a kid, you go to all these concerts and you wish you saved the tickets. But I saw you in Oklahoma in the '90s, and it was one of the greatest concerts I'd ever been to. So I bet it was. I can't wait to see you live again.
Was it Oklahoma City Valentine's Day?
It might have. That sounds about right. Because my girlfriend at the time, her birthday was around there, so that's what I would have done. I would have taken her, and she was with me. Yeah. So that makes sense if it was in February.
Well, I love Oklahoma. There's very few states that I would say I didn't enjoy a show there. We've had some good shows, but those memories, like you're talking about right there, I have them too. And that's what makes touring so awesome and doing what I do, because you walk out on stage and sometimes almost all the time it's the unexpected that makes it memorable. And I that's been the case in every one of those memories for me.
Well, it's Texas and Oklahoma has this whole rivalry going on, when it comes to football and sports. But I always looked at, like, when there was an artist from Texas, I kind of felt like they're from my home state, So it was always a little extra special when I was just in that area. But it was like I said,
Cowboy State, Oklahoma.
That's right. That's right. I grew up.
Sorry, there was some latency.
There's a little, there might be a little delay here. But you're coming in fine. So if there's a delay there, don't worry about it. But so my listeners probably don't know this about me, but I actually used to be. I was on the rodeo circuit in high school, and like we would do. I was a part of this it wasn't. So you have like the PRCA, right? Back then, and then about four tiers down, that's what I was on. But like, I had this cowboy phase, where I thought I could ride anything, and then I got bucked off and hurt my shoulder and didn't want to do it anymore. But
That's interesting you say that. I never really talk about it, but I did the, high school junior rodeo and tried to ride bulls and I was I got to be honest, people talk about, oh, my mom would come and she would like hide her eyes, but I grew up ranching and ranching is a lot different than rodeoing. I mean,
right.
a lot of people kind of put those two together. They don't go together,
No.
but I remember starting out when I was a kid. We had sheep and we had pigs, and I'd ride the pigs, and the sheep, and I'd ride anything I could swing my legs over. But after getting stomped on, a few times by bulls, I was like, I am out of this. I'm going to
Yeah.
end up with, compound fractures and everything else. But that was the toughest part, was getting stepped on. And, I obviously, I sang back then too, so I would go ride. And then when I got done riding, I would sing, at whatever the dance hall or whatever they had there at the rodeo arena. And, I decided really quick, that, that I had a better chance of picking up girls, singing, than riding. And plus, if I could start singing before they were finished riding, so I'd have first choice.
Yeah. Well, and you wouldn't need pain pills after. So, I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
I just remember like the adrenaline rush you got. And so like it's chasing the adrenaline rush and if people are in rodeos. And I actually lost the guy I rode with. He died when we were 19 riding bulls in Hera,
So
Oklahoma. And just a horrible, horrible thing. But I mean, I got out when I think I was 16, but I mean, I still, you probably can still feel where the bull stomped on you. I can still feel my shoulder, my neck kind of planting into the ground as I just slide off like butter.
It's not for the faint of heart. I'm really sorry you lost your friend, though. That's really sad, tragic,
Yeah.
And I think I could see the writing on the wall too.
Yeah.
When you got an animal that powerful and heavy, and could do a lot of damage, and
Yeah.
it's underneath of you until it's on top of you. you you don't want the on top piece, but rodeo, and I just played a friend of mine, Shane Miner, great songwriter in town. His daughter, both of them, Maggie and Macy, both participate in high school rodeo, and I went out to Tennessee, and Tennessee high school, Tennessee and Georgia were putting on a rodeo where they were competing against each other, and I sang for the high schoolers, and it felt really good, to go out there and watch these kids, that are trying so hard, at a sport that's, dang near impossible. The variables for rodeoing are so great that it's just really hard to succeed but they're doing it, and my hat's off to the folks that really keep the Western lifestyle alive and thriving, and those high school rodeos are important. And I'm glad that I got to do some of that, but also glad I knew and found out quickly, what my calling was going to be, and that was singing.
Yeah. Well, may he rest in peace. Jeremy Lloyd that's my friend I lost as we go to.
Well, let's have a toast to him.
Yeah, I'd like to. I appreciate that. He was. Jeremy was. He was one of those guys that he was tough as nails, but if you were his friend, he'd do anything for you, and if you weren't, well, you better not get in his way. So I'm glad he was my friend. So cheers to Jeremy. Rest in peace, my friend.
Here's to Jeremy. Rest in peace, Jeremy. Man, that is so different than the first one.
Yeah.
This one did not have, like in wine tasting, did not have a lot on the nose, but
Mhm.
man, it is packed with flavor. When it actually gets on your tongue. This is really good.
Yeah, and we're tasting the Seelbach's finished in toasted French oak and maple syrup barrels. And usually, when you get something that's finished in a syrup barrel, you can taste it. It's like oversaturated. I think he did a great job of keeping the balance in this. I think this is a fantastic, fantastic whiskey.
This was out of the two. This is my favorite, but the Michter's awesome. But this one right here suits me a little. It has a little bit more burn to it. I kind of like that.
You know,
I get the toasty flavor. It's
it just
great. And
reminds
when I
you a
say,
little bit of the holidays. I'm tasting this, and it just makes me think of Christmas and like sitting around the fire,
yeah,
Christmas tree behind
I,
me, kids running
see,
around.
I even feel cinnamon on that. I know it's not
Yeah.
listed on the bottle, but it kind of has that to it. This is really cool. I like this one a lot.
So speaking of Christmas, you've got a Tennessee kind of Christmas airing here pretty soon on CMT, December 8th, and I'm excited about that. Tell us about it? What do you got cooking there?
Well, I got asked to be on the CMT special, which is an honor. Anytime you get asked, especially like getting asked to be on your show, it's not everybody gets asked, and it's kind of like getting called up. It feels good. So CMT wanted me to be part of the special, and I'd written a song called "Cowboy Christmas," and it ended up making the cut, and they wanted me to be on there. So it gives a kind of a Texas swing kind of song, which Texas swing is kind of not the in thing obviously these days, but the song itself's got some really cool lyrics, and I think people are gonna enjoy. I think it was well done. I was just one of the acts, one of the artists that were on it. My buddy Tracy Lawrence is on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sarah Evans. I don't know all of them, but there's quite a lineup there, and to help people get in the Christmas spirit, is fun. I love Christmas.
Me too.
I kind of make fun of my wife, Jessica, and my kids because they literally love Christmas music so much they want to play it all the time, and I'm like, come on, man, let it give it a break so we can get there and it just be so exciting. But that doesn't change their excitement. For them
Yeah.
it works, but they start playing Christmas music in October around here, my house. So I just got to go with it. But it's really special to. And on this particular special, my piece was done at a barn, with horses, and which fits, who I am, and I thought that Rat Clark, who actually produced it, did a great job, at least on my piece of it. I don't know what the other ones look like, but he set it up in a way that really looks like it catered to the personality and lifestyle of the people surrounding it.
Well, when you all do something like this, do you pre-record like months in advance, or is it closer in the season? Because all those Christmas movies, they're like filmed in like July, and so I'm always curious when there's a Christmas special if it's like done like super early.
No, and I'll tell you something too that I thought was unique, and I was like, how are they going to do this? But they did it. They brought a microphone to the barn, and
Oh wow!
we recorded my vocals live. So it's a one taker live. I mean, we
Wow!
we we did it twice. That's it. And I was like floored by the amount of continuity and great sound that they could get from a live microphone. So I think that's worth noting. I don't know if the other artists did their recordings live, but mine is.
So that's like you're getting so good on TikTok. It's carrying over to performing.
Man, I love TikTok.
I
I
know.
love I love a format that can get us, the artists, to the fans fast,
Yeah.
and real, fast and real. And I was honestly, I'm surprised my expectation for TikTok was not all that high, and something just happened. People gravitated to it and started engaging us, and it's been a lot of fun. I've met some new celebrities, that are TikTok celebrities through that, and man, I don't know what to say. Just accept that obviously through the years there have been some people that have liked our music and continue to like it, and I feel like they're also getting a better picture of who I am through TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't, that's the beauty of it, is that you're doing all these selfies in the environment that you're in, and 90% of those are either in my home or on the ranch here, not somewhere like a studio or trying to be made up. Most of them I'm not even shaved, kind of like I am right now. It's just being real, and I'm glad that people find that refreshing, and makes them. My wife and I went out to dinner the other night, and some people came up to me and started talking to me, and as they walked away, my wife said, "Sweetheart," she goes, "How do you know them?" And I go, "I don't. I just met them." She goes, "They seem like they knew you your whole life." And she told me, she goes, "That's what I noticed." She goes, "Most people feel like they know you," and I go, "That's good."
Yeah, that is good. And, I think that social media provides that. It provides that element, and there's also a lot of musicians who get discovered now through these mediums. And as a fan of music, I think I get most excited about that. And these are people that the labels never would have found, and now they're on YouTube getting hundreds of thousands of followers and kind of starting their own little career. I mean, I think social media can be great for musicians for sure.
I think so too. You always have to look for, when will it be controlled by, our industry, record labels or whoever, and wherever there's money to be made, rest assured that that's what keeps the industry, perpetuated, is making money and being able to grow it. So I do love the raw beauty of TikTok at the moment. I can see it starting to morph a little bit, of where the other platforms were, and so eventually, it'll become something not so organic, and then another one will pop up, which is cool. But it really is a beautiful deal at the moment. And you're right, a lot of people can get seen or heard that would not have necessarily been seen or heard in a traditional way, like terrestrial radio or CMT or digital radio even. So it's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, radio is so different now. Like when you have when you drop something, to stream, like when you drop like a new album in streaming, do you do like a radio tour, or do you just you just put it out there to be streamed? And do you even consider radio tours anymore?
Yeah, for me right now at the time, I've got a record label called Show Dog Records, which Toby Keith
Mm-hmm.
owns, and he's a great artist. He's done, if you don't know who Toby is, you've probably been under a rock. But I'm not. I'm
That's
just
about
kidding.
right. Yeah.
People know who Toby is. But he and I G-Haul good, and we have the same manager, TK Kimbrell, and right now, I've got a really good shot. I've made a good album, and we have promoted it at radio lately, and it's
Mm-hmm.
been well received. One of the songs called "Catching Up with an Old Memory," which is something you can do with this right here, and it has a whiskey line in it. It says, "Just let this whiskey hit me and take me on back." So I'll drink to that.
I love it.
But so radio, I think, is going to give us a shot, and as an artist that's had hits in the past, older artist, if you will, my age does not bother me even a little bit. I'm a better singer or performer, today than I was when I started out, and that's what I think matters to people. I really think that that's what they want. They want the authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Can you really do it live thing,
Mm-hmm.
and and so with that, I think radio is going to give us a chance, and that's very good.
That's awesome. I just was I was curious of like, from your position of like how everything is just so easy on streaming. Like, it's good to know that radio is still a priority, at your level and other artists. So,
Well, the people that say radio is not a priority, that means they're not being played. So they want to say it's not a priority. Let's get real here. It's like, playing in the NFL. Would you rather play, in the NFL or, in an arena league ball team or even less, So
yeah,
let's just be real clear.
yeah, I
People
like that.
people kind of make up their own storyline to suit their ego. But
That's true.
I'm here to tell you. I met Tom Watson when he turned 50 years old, and he was getting off of the PGA Tour and onto the Senior Tour, or what they call the Champions Tour.
Hmm.
It is the Senior Tour, but Champions Tour, they rebranded it. And I walked up to him. We were at some event, and I said, "How do you like the Champions Tour?" He goes, "I hate it." I said, "Why?" He goes, "It's a ghost town. There's nobody there." He was so real. It was like, he goes, "There's nothing like being on PGA Tour,
Yeah.
and there's nothing like being played on terrestrial radio." Although, yes, do I love Spotify, Pandora, and all the other streaming service? Absolutely, they are relevant and they mean something. But the biggest footprint for new music is still terrestrial radio. That's still it. And it's
Wow.
not the only way, but it's the best way and the biggest way. It's the PGA Tour. It's the NFL. That's where you want to be.
I, I, I love that analogy. Clay, one of the things, that I look up to you with how you have become a voice for people with MS, and how you are very vocal about the public health of our country and everything. I look up to you for that, and I've observed how you've kind of handled things in the pandemic, and I wanted to ask you, does being in the public spotlight, like, in trying to relate to people um about MS and about the risks of not getting vaccinated, do you feel a burden by that, or is that something that you are proud to do?
There's definitely not a burden. I feel a duty, to be honest to not only my fans, when I'm recording or doing things or doing interview, but I feel a great duty, to be honest with people who have MS.
Mm-hmm.
I struggled with it really tough early on. I was first diagnosed. I've never missed a show, by the way, not one. But 2 years ago, I went through the worst struggle of my life with MS. I had an attack and I couldn't feel anything below here, nothing at all, just nothing. I mean, I had no feeling. I mean, you could have branded me on both legs, I wouldn't have felt it. And
Wow.
that's called a sensory attack. And I'd never had a sensory attack before. And I was walking out on stage and could not feel my legs. I didn't know if I was going to fall over or not. And I had to tell several band members, said, if you see me start to fall, please just step toward me so I can hold on to you. And none of my band had ever seen that before. I had never seen it before. My feet felt like they were going to explode to the bottom of my boots, and that lasted for about 6 months. It was the most terrifying time of my life. And I think when celebrities or anybody avoids telling people the truth, I think you're I wouldn't say you're hurting them, but you're actually inhibiting some really good conversation to come out of that, and to look for eventually what would be a cure for MS. There's not a lot of people who have MS, and there's very few celebrities who have MS.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when I get that chance to talk, I say things like this. I was on a particular medication and it worked for me for so many years. And, and I was glad to talk about it. when that attack happened, I was like, I got to change, and in a celebrity or any person that cannot be beholden to a brand, you got to be honest, and so I went on a different medication that my doctor recommended. I'm doing great. I've had no relapses since being on that medication, thank God. And, but you got to be willing to change. It's one of the things that, and I've studied it. I read a lot of stuff, and Napoleon was known for being able to make a battle plan, go into battle. And when the variables changed, when he actually crossed that line of departure, he knew better than anyone how to change on the fly, adjust to what was in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that to anybody in life, whether it's cancer or some other disease or multiple sclerosis like I have. You got to have a plan, and then you got to be ready to change it when it's not working. And so having MS, has actually enriched my life. A lot of people find that crazy, but when I was diagnosed very early on in my life, I was only 26 years old, and which is about the time that it actually hits most people, men or women, and it profoundly changed my life. There's I heard it said one time that faith ain't faith until it's all you got left.
Yeah.
And no one could give me the answers. And the most terrifying thing was the doctors had no answers. Today we got some, but back when I was diagnosed, there were no answers. And I was terrified for a long time, and I had to lean on my faith, and fortunately, no, I mean, I'm blessed, not just fortunate, blessed that it was real, and it became more real for me. So I don't leave that piece out of it when I'm talking about MS either. That doesn't seem to be the in vogue thing to do, is talk about God or faith or anything these days. But
yeah,
without that, I'd probably be in the ground.
Today is the anniversary of George Harrison, the 20th anniversary of George Harrison passing, as we're recording this. And one of his famous quotes, and I won't get it exactly right, but he basically said something like, "You can't, nothing needs to happen except your continuous search for God, and loving those around you." I mean, basically that was the gist of it. It was just such an accurate and beautiful quote, and of course
that is beautiful.
I got it wrong.
That is beautiful. No, I'll tell you, that is beautiful. And I was a fan of his music. And I would say too, that I've gone through phases in my life where I thought, this is how God is. It's a traditional view, and that's it. I know that that's right. This is what the Bible says, or this is what that says. I now believe with all my heart that, nobody can put a limit on God's mercy, and so I don't believe that you have to, look at the secular standards of the world today and go, oh yeah, that's all inclusive. I do believe that God does love every one of his children, and that's all of us on the earth. And I don't think that, I think if you have that perspective in mind, that you could be a much better person every day if you're not trying to be judgmental and live in this regiment box,
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes we set up for ourselves and go, this is my religion, this is Christianity, this is exactly how it is. I think that there's room within God's heart, for all of us.
I think that's right. And the moment that religion gets politicized, and the moment that people in power of certain religions do wrong, I mean, that's where the dangers are. And all you're saying, and all George Harrison believed in, and a lot of people of faith believe, is that the higher power is not a man or anyone in power or a political party. It's your personal search for God. And
well, that's right, your personal search, but not your personal opinion.
Yeah, that's right. Your personal search.
There.
Not your personal
Right.
opinion. I know. I mean, how many people today can't wait to get in a political argument with somebody? You know, and it's like,
I've been there on our band bus. If you can imagine, we had the perspective we have in our group of people. We have Christians of all denominations.
mm-hmm.
We have Buddhists. We have atheists. We have agnostics in our group. If you could imagine the conversation that happens on that bus, I'm telling you, it's been the greatest experience of my life. And, most of us have been together for years and years. And we have knockdown dragouts. But it all comes down to love. And you can see we love each other so much. I mean, I know that most of those guys on that bus would die for me, and I would die for them. And that's really the answer, that we're looking for is, and I think that there's more good in people than there is bad. I'm not trying to be an optimist there. Are you opening the 291?
Yeah, I just got the 291. I didn't want to interrupt you there. You're on a roll here.
But you get ahead of me. Well, I'm just, I want to say something too, to this point, because I know there's a lot of Christians out there watching, and the majority of folks, in this country are Christian, and I'm not excluding anyone. I'm just trying to say something that when I'm talking about religion, which is probably my favorite subject of all, because I think unless you have a religious backdrop or core, that your perspective is distorted. And and I heard someone say this, a theologian once, or read it, that if you walk into a home and you'd never seen a wall before, you'd never seen a home, but you see a coat hanging on the wall, and you'd never seen a coat and you'd never seen a wall, your perspective would be that walls are magnetic and coats stick to them. If you never saw the hook that coat was hanging on, the perspective is completely distorted.
Yeah.
So, the unseen thing, that what we call God, if you don't have that in your life, you have a distorted perspective. And that's now a lot of people are going to say, how can you say that I'm atheist or I'm agnostic? And I say, that is a point of view that I have. And so when it comes to Christianity too, I'm going to say this. I don't believe that Christianity is ambiguous. I do believe that we can know a lot of things, and you got to search it out, and you got to say, is it truth or not? And that's what I leave people with. But what I told you about, I would die for those guys. They would die for me. What do you call that? What do you call that? And they don't, hardly any of us believe exactly alike. So, but we would die for each other. And I think God is looking for that. I think he wants us to love our brothers and sisters like
love
that.
And loyalty.
Because he said, I mean, one of the quotes from Jesus, he says, love one another as I have loved you. He died for us. So if I'm willing to die for someone else, then I'm doing that commandment.
I was in the military for 9 years and did a tour in Iraq, and there's not a greater feeling of willing to put your life on the line than the military or police.
Hey,
or
then I propose a toast to you. I did not know you were in the military. I propose this toast to you and all of our military brothers and sisters who put their life on the line for us in the past, in the present, in the future.
Cheers, brother. I appreciate that. But
whoa.
So we're moving to Colorado. This is a rye whiskey finished in aspen staves.
Yeah, this one is way different. I guess it's the rye.
The rye, the aspen. All a very different, style. And this distillery, the owner, his name is Michael Myers,
Is
and
that Aspen Wood? Can I ask? Is that
Aspen
Aspen
wood.
Wood?
Yeah, so
Okay. Okay. Michael Myers.
they take aspen wood and they put it in the barrel. And the yields a real smoky, flavor quality.
Whoa, yeah, that's
Um,
cool.
Michael was a fashion photographer and, photographed the likes of Angelina Jolie, Sam Elliott, and a bunch of models. And he was, he was a 9/11 survivor and, wanted to do something different with his life. And he got out of fashion photography and started a distillery in Colorado. And I just think I just think it's one of the coolest stories, and they've got a completely different flavor profile. I love their bottle. I think they got a lot of good stuff going for them.
Yeah, I like it too. I tell you, I don't know if I just ended up with these three, but all three of these are excellent. Like I wouldn't pass up any of them.
And if you end up finding the box we sent you that had the Angel's Envy Cellar Collection, the 13-year-old Blue Run, and my blend that I did for Smoke Wagon, a 14-year-old. If you end up finding that little box, taste those and let me know what you think about them, because those are going to be yummy.
Well, how about this? Would you give me a follow-up call if we could get those?
I think I can do that. And I can, and
do
also,
that?
like, if you need me to resend them,
Yes.
I can do that.
Well, I'm in town. I'm out of town this week coming.
Okay.
And then I'm in town until middle of January. I would love to do the follow-up with those. I don't know if you could blend the two shows if we set the setting exactly alike or not, but I would like to.
We'd probably end up doing two shows because I wanted to drop this on Monday to promo your CMT.
Oh, wow.
Your CMT deal. So,
well, I would love to do a second show with you. I mean, I really like the rapport, man. You're super easy, to do. Feel like I've known you 25 years, when we.
I can actually say that you've been in my head for more than 25 years, so I can say that about you. So you're just now getting to know me, but like, I mean, whiskey's all about friends. It's all about sharing a conversation, and I know we have, the world is divided in a lot of ways, and then I've always believed that if two people who disagree on something can just sit down and have a dram and a conversation, you come out a little different. You may not end up agreeing on everything, but if you just talk about the whiskey and you think about the whiskey, you may end up coming out and respecting someone that you didn't previously respect. And I also feel like we got a lot of issues in this country with alcoholism, and alcoholism is not about what we've been doing, tasting, talking about it. It's about chugging a fifth of vodka in a parking lot at 9:00 in the morning. So I'm a big believer of getting people to taste and learn and think about what it is they're putting on their tongue.
I am too. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I'll get religious again. Jesus' very first miracle was turning water into wine.
That's right.
So if there's something wrong with getting together with friends and family and having a drink, then I guess he really messed it up, because he's given us a lot of encouragement to do that, and so I appreciate you very much, Mr. Fred Minnick. Here's to a newfound friend and a continuation of more of the same, and to get an even broader iteration, of this conversation started in another segment, if you allow me.
I love it. It's going to happen. We'll have Clay Walker Part 2, and what we can do on that one is you can pair your songs to the whiskey. So
I would love that. Hey, I would get my guitar out, and this is a great room for vocals. I'll just get my guitar. We'll have a conversation that includes music and little backstories behind some songs, memories that you might have with some of the songs too.
Absolutely. You got it. Well, I don't know if I could repeat some of the memories, but I don't want to get in, don't want to bring up too many memories of my my teenage and early 20s days, I wouldn't exactly. I got a little bit of trouble here and there, but it wasn't because of your music. I'll say that. I've just always been a fan. But it's you were always.
Well, if you ain't getting in a little bit of trouble, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, cheers, my friend. Here's to the next time, and everyone, if you're not checking out Clay Walker yet, well, it's you've been under a rock, as you said about Toby Keith. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers to you. See you soon.